Good. 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 Good.
Testing, testing. Can you hear me? I sound. I sound good. We all good? How y'all doing tonight, man? What's up, man? This is Mr. Royce of Royce Media coming at you guys with another video. Coming at you guys with another live stream. Do me a favor, hit that like button on your way in, and we'll get started with the babble. First of all, I'd like to know how did you guys' day go? Mine went pretty good. Went and picked up another pistola. Yeah, you can never have too many pistolas. That's what I say. You can never have too many pistolas. I don't know about you guys, man. Yeah, it's a lot going on in the news as usual. We're gonna touch on some of it, and mainly Babble. I encourage all chat participation. Don't ask me nothing I can't answer. You know, don't be asking me no weird questions. But anyway, man. Anyway, shout out to Mike Reed for joining us. He's working late, so he couldn't hop on. So he came on over here to bless us with his presence. So salute to Mike Reed. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't go live on Rumble today. I've been kind of staying away from Rumble because I've been having a little too much trouble with Rumble. I more or less got everything taken care of with OBS, so I want to work with OBS for a while. And when I can get Rumble where I want it to be, then I'll go live on Rumble too. So hopefully I can get people over here, and we can do this live stream here. And you know, as I said before, once I get Rumble going, we'll get it going. Great. I think I spoke too soon. YouTube on a trip, man. It's always something, man. It's always something, you know. So we'll try to push through it and make it do what it do. You know, I almost want to just grab YouTube, the YouTube Pilot Bureau, and a full Nelson and be like, stop fucking on my screen. You know, put some of that strong arm on them. You know, man. Oh my God, man. So I heard our girl Kamala was she did a rally recently over in Michigan, and she got heckled a bit. Yeah, you've been having trouble with Rumble or something, Mike Reed? Yeah, I think maybe it has something to do with this recent wave of cyber attacks. I don't know if you all know anything about cybersecurity and cyber risk and stuff, but there's been a lot of cyber attacks. Okay, YouTube been tripping. Yeah, man, YouTube been tripping, man. I don't know. Lately, there's been a wave of cyber attacks, and you know, they've been giving a lot of people who depend on the internet and the cloud and different stuff like that, been giving them the flux. The cybersecurity specialists have been working on it to rectify the problem. But man, going forward, I think we're going to see a lot more cyber attacks. So just get ready for it. Get ready for it, and do whatever due diligence you can to protect yourself, because they out here, man. They out here trying to cause a lot of disruption, and I believe cyber attacks will play a significant role during the election. So don't be surprised, man. Don't be surprised. So last night, yesterday, I was watching a little bit of a stream by BGS. Shout out to BGS. And he was talking about divestors. And it was a stream about divestors and, how basically divestors are paying what I call the zaddy tax. The zaddy tax is basically what their male counterparts are basically charging them for relationships. And this usually manifests itself in the divestors paying for dates, the divestors doing stuff like, buying cars and stuff, different things like that. And believe it or not, a lot of the guys that were in the chat and in the comments were kind of surprised. The thing is I've been talking about the Zaddy tax since 2018, back in the London Monroe days. London Monroe is a content creator who she would always talk about, meeting up with Zaddy and stuff. But, um, you know, I talked about it because I know what really goes on. I've told you guys about um, Mr. Mike, and that's not Mike Reed. This is a different Mike. This is a white guy, white Polish guy, who, when I was working out in Fort Heights, he had a couple of houses out there that women had bought for him, or left for him in wills and things, and that was their way of paying his zaddy tax. That's when I first really caught wind of it, and then, you know, being in the military, I started, learning that this wasn't the only time it was happening. I made mention of divestors paying car notes and stuff. I know of two situations where divestors have bought in guys like pickup trucks, with the big dually wheels and stuff on there. It's insane. It's insane. So the zaddy tax is real. And if you pay close attention when you see these couples, you'll see it. You'll see it. So, you're talking about the same women that, they talk about how who they don't date because they don't have money, and they can't afford their lifestyles. And all the while, these women are financing the lifestyles of the guys that they're with. You know, it's a different set of rules for Zaddy, you know. Now you'll have female content creators, they'll say stuff giving the impression that Zaddy is paying them, and that may be true in some cases, but a lot of times Zaddy is making them pay the Zaddy tax. We even saw this happen with Travis Kelsey when he was dating that Kayla Nicole girl. Um, she was paying for everything, and she got on social media and complained about it. And this is not the first time we've seen women complain, you know, certain demographic of women. This is not the first time we've seen them complain about footing the bill for everything. The most recent case was this content creator who was in an interracial couple. And, she normally would do content talking about how great of a man she had, how masculine he was, and how he pays for everything. Well, she got drunk and she went live. And I keep telling y'all that social media is the best, worst thing that ever happened to women. Because they can't help it. They get mad, they get frustrated with something. They don't like the way things are going, and they get on social media and they air out their issues. And what's funny is they talk about guys, instead of going to get therapy, they'll go they'll go have a podcast. These chicks aren't that much better. In fact, they're worse. In fact, um, a lot of content aimed at women, and particularly the divestors, for the last 50 years has been based on, them airing out their frustrations. So, yeah, man. Mike Reed says it's been like that since the early 2000s. I would say longer, man. Like I said, like the last 50 years, with as far as the women airing out their frustrations. Now, if you're talking about the zaddy tax, yes, yes, the zaddy tax has been going on for a long time, and I seen it before, but I didn't really pay attention to it. I really started paying attention to it, and I actually spoke about it in 2018. You know, Mike Reed says that Shar chick from Moesha, Kevin Federline. Yes. You know what? Come to think of it, and Mike Reed is correct. We've seen it earlier. That Shar Jackson chick, she was with Kevin Federline, and he hit her with the zaddy tax. He hit Brittany with the zaddy tax too. But that is a great example. Shout out to Mike Reed for that. So, you know, you got that going on in social media, and I think we're going to start seeing more of it as interracial relationships increase. You're going to see that. Um, Getting back to the BGS stream, these guys were, they were talking about the interracial relationships. And one thing I want to point out, and I don't think anybody has touched on this, so I'll be the first. We look at Loving versus Virginia. Loving versus Virginia was the landmark Supreme Court case that made interracial relationships legal in the United States, legal and recognizable. This involved the loving couple, which was a white man and a black woman. She also had some Native American ancestry, from what I read. But they were a couple who they had gotten married and were cohabitating, and they both had been arrested by the local authorities for being in a interracial marriage. And the case ended up going to the Supreme Court, and that's where the Supreme Court, as I mentioned before, recognized the legality of interracial marriages. What you all need to understand, black men, that Supreme Court ruling was not about you. It's not about you. It was about placage. It was about legitimizing placage. Placage is the practice in the United States of European men, primarily French and Spanish, marrying black women. This was a common practice in places like Louisiana. I wouldn't say necessarily common. Let me roll that back. Not common, but it was something that was seen in primarily Louisiana. This is how you got a lot of the French Creoles there. So, and in these placage situations, a lot of times these people were in common law marriages, or the woman served as a mistress, a second wife to that European French gentleman, French or Spanish gentleman. That Loving versus Virginia was really about legitimizing those marriages for those people, for white men and black women. That case was never really about you all. I'll even go further and say, in my opinion, integration was never about um, integrating black men. It was about integrating black women, in that they wanted to be seen as on par with white women, and that was the biggest push with integration, because integration was informally happening already, where you know um you had pockets of black Americans and white Americans that interacted um on different levels, and and those interactions were voluntary and non-combative. So the process of integration, being ratified by the U.S. Supreme Court, it was a government mandate, but it was happening on its own, And I think what was behind that mandate was, I think the real push behind it was it was for women because um, black men were already integrating in the military and already integrating with white men in the workplace. It was already happening. It was happening on its own in an organic fashion, and the Supreme Court just basically mandated it and used government entities to enforce it, such as legislation, law enforcement, different things like that, was to enforce it. But really, the big thing for integration, it was, um, I think, it was more about women because women wanted to be seen as on par with white women. Black men had already done hard work by fighting in all of this nation's wars and different things like that, and the integration was already um, in motion for Black American men. So, I digress. But keep those two things in mind. That legislation wasn't really about you, black man. It was about black women, and that's my opinion. I'm pretty sure people will have a different opinion, and that's fine. Really, I don't care. That's how I see it, and I know enough about it to stand firm on what I said. So you have that. Now we're going to talk about the Olympics today. Um, I don't know if you all seen that opening ceremony. I saw a little bit of it, and what I saw may just turn me off to the Olympics completely. I was like, man, I'm not watching this garbage, man. I'm not participating in this nonsense with these people. I'm not supporting it through my viewership, none of that. And it's really sad because I normally am a person that really looks forward to the Olympics, especially the Olympic combat sports such as judo, wrestling, and boxing. In fact, one of Mike Reed's and myself's um, brethren from the Chicago boxing, fraternity for back in the days. His son is actually on the Olympic boxing team, representing the U.S. and the U.S. Army. Shout out to Kamal Bay. I believe that's his name. Um, his father is a former pro boxer, pro champion, Golden Gloves boxer from Chicago. So shout out to the Bay family. Um, but I used to be really big on watching the Olympics. I used to love the Olympics. I even dreamed of going to the Olympics, participating, competing in the Olympics in boxing. But you know, then I met my wife, fell in love, and we had kids. you know, and I had a family to take care of, so that kind of dashed those dreams. But hey, it is what it is. And although you have a lot of people that say, "Oh, well, I'd be an Olympian," you have people that say that. Well, I actually fought and beat an um, uh, 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 Olympic boxing team alternate by the name of Brian Farrell. I don't know if you remember Brian Farrell, Mike Reed, but yeah, we had a fight, and I won that fight by matching his boxing skill. I mean, it was a very competitive fight. Um, I won a unanimous decision, but that was a tough fight, and I only won by like 1 point. And although it was a kickboxing match, we did more boxing than anything. We boxed our ass off in that fight. And that's the fight I talk about where his wife told him she was going to leave him if he didn't retire because I broke his jaw in that fight. So, shout out to me for you know, being that dog. I was a dog in that fight, and like I said, I won that fight. So that was one of the big highlights of my pro am career from back in the days, you know. Hey, do you remember that fight? You happen to remember that fight, Mike Reed, or was that before your time? I want to say that fight took place maybe what 1997. Yeah, it was before Kevin got real sick. So Kevin McClinton was my coach at the time. Kevin McClinton and Shutan Ali. Rest in peace to Kevin. Shout out to Shutan. He's still training boxers. He's in Texas actually right now, training young boxers to go pro or to try to make it to the Olympics one day. Great trainer. Kevin McClinton was a great trainer. If you ever meet if you ever meet Shutan, tell him you listen to Roy Jones's my content, and hey, you know, but yeah, man, I used to really look forward to boxing. I used to really look forward to wrestling, judo, karate, all of that stuff. I even had a chance to I trained with a world champion judo guy. And I do a lot of judo, and so a lot of the throws and takedowns I do, I actually they come from judo, and I was able to train with a judo world champion. I believe Dan might have his name was Dan Brown, and I think he might have competed in the Olympics back in the day. This guy was a monster, man. Oh my God, he was a monster with judo, and I picked up a lot of judo from him, from some other judoka that I used to randori and stuff with. So when I was teaching combatives for the U.S. Army, uh, I was one of the people that kind of incorporated a lot of the judo um, into that, you know, because I felt like it was too much. There was too much ground fighting. I was like, you're standing up before you hit the ground. They had the striking elements and everything, but you know, using garis and different things like that incorporated into the program is because um guys like me would, well, I primarily me, I would use that um, rolling with people. And you know, I think judo was great, you know. Judo does have a ground game, but it's not as focused on as it is in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. In Japanese jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of groundwork too, but even with that, it's not as refined and focused on as it is in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But anyway, getting back to the Olympics, I saw that opening ceremony and I was done. I didn't want to watch any of the rest of it, and I've seen very little of it. And this is the first time in years, you know. Now, what I'm referring to with the opening ceremony, they basically turned it into like some weird drag show ceremony, making a mockery of Christianity and stuff. And I thought it was very disrespectful, man, to Christians. You know, number one, you wouldn't do that to Islam. You wouldn't do that to Judaism. You wouldn't do it to the Hindu faith or any of the other faiths. They specifically targeted Christianity, and they did the Last Supper, where Jesus broke bread with it was the last dinner Jesus had with his 12 disciples, and they made like a drag thing of it. And it made a mockery of that key event in Christianity. And it was disrespectful. And, you know, you all are probably thinking, well, Royce, you said you're not a Christian, so why would you care? Well, I am not a Christian, but I do believe in respecting everyone's faith. I do believe in not making a mockery out of other people's faith. I have my criticisms, but still, I'm not going to go out and make a mockery of what you believe because that's your beliefs. And if I respect you, I respect your beliefs. So, I'm not going to make a mockery of that, and I don't think it's cool to see other people make a mockery of that. So, yeah, I didn't like it, man. I didn't like it at all. Now, one of the things I seen some highlights of women's Olympic boxing, also known as, I've renamed it, the amateur pro-am DV event, because what you have in women's Olympic boxing is you basically have males fighting females. And on the thumbnail I got, um, it was showing an Algerian boxer who has allegedly an extra Y chromosome, or an extra X. He has extra chromosomes. This person has extra chromosomes and has a higher testosterone level than most women, but he was allowed to compete against women, and he was fighting an Italian boxer who was a female, and he hit this boxer so bad. Excuse me for saying, he hit this boxer so bad that she quit in the middle of the match. She quit. She said she had never been hit that hard. She started crying. She didn't want to shake hands, nothing. I mean, he blasted her hard, and the shots, I mean, they were good shots, but, nothing that, if those shots came from another female boxer, I don't think it would have did as much damage as it did to this female Italian boxer. And I think she would have likely withstood um the 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 blows, the punches coming from a female, you know. Now, I know a lot of you guys out there gonna be like, that's not fair, and they shouldn't do that. I disagree, and I disagree because um women either advocated for this or they didn't push back against it hard enough to where these this other group of people couldn't compete against them in their sports. They allowed it, and so now they got to deal with the consequences. You know, I used to be a sparring partner for a women's world champion professional boxer. And this was Chris Cruz, Mike Reed. This was Chris Cruz. I don't know if you remember back in the day, we used to train with Chris Cruz. I was one of her sparring partners, and my job was to put speed on her because I had pretty quick hands. When I say quick, I wasn't fast where I would put out 27,000 punches, but I might hit you with five really fast before you can move. And my instructions in working with Chris Cruz was to put speed on her, but take the power out, which is what I did. I would, hit her with a couple of fast jabs, um, and I would hit her in the forehead of her headgear, and she would get super pissed. She would be hot because she felt like I was hitting her with my full strength. And I was like, woman, you just don't know. I'm not hitting you hard at all. I'm just hitting you fast. And, I was hitting her with probably about 30% of my strength. And it was giving her the blues. So I can imagine in this Olympic boxing that this Algerian boxer was hitting his opponents with a good amount of his power. And like I said, man, that Italian female boxer, she said she had never been hit that hard in her life. Hey, you know, and this is not the first time we've seen this because we've actually seen this in MMA matches. I don't know if you guys remember Fallon Fox. Fallon Fox was an MMA fighter from a few years ago, that former Navy veteran that had transitioned from a man to a trans woman and was competing professionally against women, and he was cracking skulls literally. He was putting a beating on his opponents who were all female, you know. And there was a whole lot of outrage, but again, the women co-signed it, so it is what it is. And he wasn't the only one. There was another one who was a former Green Beret, that competed in the UFC and was fighting women. And this dude, you can look at him and tell that even as a dude, as a guy, he was no joke. He was about 154 pounds, about maybe 6 feet, 5'11", 6 feet. And you can look and tell that this guy was, even as a man, he would be a highly formidable opponent. But he was there in the UFC with pink and purple hair and with his little, sports bra on, and he was fighting women, and he was lighting them up. You know, that's on women. Oh, well, you know, you think you can do anything a man can do? Well, guess what? Fight one now, you know? So I call it, it's a backdoor to DV. And nothing is more misogynistic than men competing in women's sports and, and beating them in their sports. You know, it's totally misogynistic, but nobody will say that part out. That's the quiet part that nobody will say out loud. But I'm saying it out loud. It's the definition of misogyny. Yeah, they talk all this misogyny and all of that stuff, defeat the patriarchy. You can't whoop that one guy's ass. You're gonna defeat an entire system. What if men just decide, okay, we're gonna turn loose the war machine? Then what? Then what? What's gonna happen, girls? What's gonna happen? You know? Yeah, man. So Mike Reed said he remembers the name. He's talking about he put that when I was talking about Brian Farrell, and he says they don't respect anything, and that is in regards to the El Gibbets, which it's really a religion. This is something I noticed way back like 2012, 2013, that they were moving in a direction to where the El Gibbets was becoming a religion, and they were seeking the same rights and protections and privileges as a religious group. And now we're seeing that that is indeed the case. It is a religion. I'm not the only person to say this. PBD, shout out to Patrick Bet David. He said it. Judge Joe Brown has said it. This is not something that I saw in a vacuum, and I've been calling it out for years before any of these guys said it. Now, people with bigger platforms than mine are saying the same thing. It's a religion. You can't say anything bad about them. You can't be critical of the things that they do, you know, but they can say anything about you. They can say anything about you. And I saw that this was going to happen because I remember the Westboro Baptist Church, and they used to be out protesting with their signs. God hates the flames. I can't say the other word because the stream would be shut down immediately by the YouTube Pilot Bureau, which it'll probably get shut down anyway. Who knows? But they had these signs that said God hates flamers, but the other word much shorter. God hates the bags. God hates the bags. And you know, seeing stuff like this, I was like, man, they aren't doing anything but helping these people appear to be victims, and they are making themselves look like bullies, and there's going to be a pushback, and sure enough, we are living in the time of the pushback. And now, on the other side, the L Gibbets is pushing too far. They're poking the bear. They're beyond poking the bear, and they're outright slapping the bear, which is the bear's Christianity. And I'm starting to see Christians push back. I'm starting them to be very vocal. Shout out to Candace Owens. She is one of the very vocal ones on social media. So is Patrick Bet David. People are pushing back. They're getting tired of the games. They're getting tired of the L. Gibbons playing in their face. And we're starting to see a pushback. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that? I think they're they're earning a lot of the criticism, especially nowadays, that they're receiving for a lot of the positions that they're holding and the things that they're doing. And back in the day, I was critical of Christians, like, making people participate in group prayers that weren't Christians or weren't type of Christians that they were, because you have different sects of Christianity. You have the Episcopalians, you have the Methodists, you have the Baptists, you have Catholics, you have Mormons, you have Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff. They all fall under the umbrella of Christianity. And I'll tell you this much: Jehovah's Witnesses don't want to participate in a prayer with Baptists or Catholics. They're not going to want to do that. You know, I don't think, Catholics and I don't think Mormons would want to participate in a Catholic prayer, you know. Um, But I saw a lot of this in the military back in the days, and I said that there's going to be a pushback. That was one of the things I saw. That said, "Hey, there's going to be a pushback, man. People are going to get tired of that." And that's not to mention people who were non-Christians whatsoever, such as your pagans, Muslims, um, people like me who are henotheistic deists. Yes, I'm a henotheistic deist, which means I do believe that there's a God above all, but I also acknowledge that there are other gods. That's where the henotheism comes in. It is the acknowledgement of other gods. This is something you see in Judaism. They believe that there are other gods, but they have their one God. We're not polytheists, which polytheists worship a bunch of different gods. They worship multiple gods. Henotheists don't. We just acknowledge the existence of more than one God. We are not monotheists. We're not going to say, oh, it's just one God. Christians think that they are monotheists when they really believe in two gods. They really believe in four gods. They believe in God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and the God of this world, who they refer to as Satan. That's four gods. But they'll tell you, oh, we're monotheists. It's not true. You know, um, you're actually henotheists. I'm just one of the few people that'll actually tell you I'm a henotheist. And the deism part comes into to where I acknowledge that there's a God above all. Everything has that there is a spiritual hierarchy, and that everything has an origin point. So we are not like atheists, which don't believe in any God, or Gnostics or things like that. Deists absolutely believe that there is a God above all. So, but getting back to what I was talking about, with Christians, they pushed to the right really hard. Now the L Gibbets is officially a competing religion and is pushing really hard to the left. And that leaves a bunch of people in the middle that don't want to be bothered with either side. And unfortunately, that pendulum is going to swing back, you know. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens, you know. Mike Reed says that's where the Trinity came in. Facts. Getting back to the what I was talking about with henotheism, that's where the Trinity comes in. You know, even though they say that, you know, it's three in one, no, it's three separate gods. You know, you call them all God, but it's three separate entities that you all refer to as God. That's henotheism, you know. So if your God has partners, then you're a henotheist. So welcome to the club, you know. So yeah, man. Um, but you know, getting back to this Olympics, um, apparently the boxing wasn't the only event that you had, you know, transgender people participating in. You also had them participating in, I believe, swimming, uh, powerlifting, different things like that, some of the other Olympic sports. And you know, the 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 trans women are smoking the biological women, like big time. Oh well, make some changes, you know. Cut out all that gender goofy nonsense. Make some acknowledge what the obvious is. There's only two genders, you know. You can call it whatever you want. You can play games, but it's only two. When you go get a um sex reassignment surgery, how many genders can you pick? You can only pick one, and that's the opposite of you. You know. Now you do have people that have both genders. I have seen people like this. When I was working in corrections, we had people who were referred to as hermaphrodites who carried both genders, and they had to be housed separately for fear that they wouldn't be victims in sexual attacks. You know, and you all know what I mean by sexual attacks. I've seen three of these people in in my during the time I was working in corrections, and I worked in corrections for 11 years. You know, and I saw three during that time. You know, um, and you they informed you of what their status was because they had to be put in, like I said, protective custody. You know, so you do have people like that. I believe there was a an African track athlete that was possibly in that case about, you know, an Olympic or two ago. And allegedly this Algerian boxer is in that situation as well, and at least one other athlete from what I saw on social media. So I don't rule out the possibility of that being the case. And that being said, why don't they participate in the sports with the guys if they have both sets of genitals? Why don't they compete against the guys? Has anybody asked that question besides me? Has anybody asked that question? I'm asking it right now. How come they don't compete against guys? I think it would be outstanding if one of them competed against the guys and actually dominated whatever that sport was. I think it would be outstanding for what the L. Gibbons is trying to push. They they pick the easy victims. They pick the easy targets, though. Let's participate in women's sports because you're not seeing trans men out there jumping out there competing against guys. I think you had one trans man boxer who was a pro boxer and that dude got knocked out, man, in like 4 seconds in his fight and got blasted bad. you know, and that's not say that person wouldn't have gotten knocked out if they were a man, because you know anybody can get knocked out in boxing or any combat sport where striking is involved, or even hard throws. Anybody can get knocked out, but this person was campaigning as a trans male boxer, and got knocked out. So there was no gain in that situation. you know. Um, so it is what it is, man. But you're not seeing, as far as these professional sports and pro am sports, which is what the Olympics are. All the Olympics are. It's pro am. You're not seeing these trans people compete against men. And so I think the question needs to be asked on a platform bigger than mine, because my platform ain't shit right now. So it is what it is. You have to excuse me, man. My forehead is itching. You know. Um, Mike Reed says when they lose, it's cause they look like a woman. Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. What's funny? You have these trans women that when they have competed against men as men, they ranked horribly. They ranked in the in the rankings, they were like at the bottom. They competed against the women and became world champions and top performers in the sports. You know, it's almost like saying that even the men are even better than women at being women. And that's messed up. It's messed up, but hey, you know, I mean, think about it. You know, it's wild, man. It's wild, but hey, you know, that the point can be argued, you know. So, yeah, you got that going, man. You got that going. So, will we see this more in sports going forward? I don't know, but if things keep going the way they are, then yes, absolutely, we're going to see more of it. You know, unless women use their power of the vote and power of influence and the power of protest to say, we're not going to participate in these sports and you don't get these guys up out of here, it's only going to continue. It's only going to continue. And it's going to, these trans women are going to up the ante, which is not going to be good for biological women. But again, you were warned. You were warned when the Williams sisters, they competed against a male tennis player. He was ranked like 74, so some crazy low ranking, and he smoked them both. We've seen it happen in the past. So what's happening right now is not a surprise to uh, it's not a surprise to any men. Now there are a lot of men that are outraged by it and stuff, and they don't like it. But hey, man, they asked for it, buddy. They asked for it. Stop trying to protect people that don't want to be protected. Stop trying to save people that don't want to be saved. Some people got to learn the hard way. Some people got to learn the hard way. And, some people happen to be women, you know. And if women in those sports aren't complaining while they're participating in those sports, they're not protesting by not participating and getting before legislative bodies and governing bodies expressing their concerns, it's going to continue to happen. And it's because they're cool with it. They're in the car. They're in the car, you know. What's crazy, I mean, what's crazy is that I don't know about you all, but I have daughters that they participated in sports when they were in high school. Um One of my daughters, she was pretty highly ranked in her sport. She was heavily recruited by colleges and stuff. And you know, so I used to go to her games and her games were exciting. She played volleyball. Now, I would watch some of the male volleyball games, that would be going on, within the same venues and close to the same time. And there was a clear difference in how the males play volleyball as opposed to the females. I mean, these males, man, they would play volleyball. That shit looked like dodgeball. Guys would slap, they would slap every serve, every return, every block. Everything was like brutal. And to the female athletes, they played their heart out. Them girls played hard. My daughter played hard. They would give themselves concussions, hitting the floor and all kinds of stuff. But it wasn't the same game. You could see the clear difference in strength, power, explosiveness, dynamics, all of that. Anything you can think of, you can see the clear difference in the performance. I wouldn't want my daughter playing against some dude, man, I would be ready to fight. And my daughter didn't like it. She thought it was stupid, you know? It was stupid. And depending on the sport, such as combat sports, it's outright dangerous. I mentioned before about Fallon Fox cracking skulls, literally. He was putting chicks in the hospital bad, you know. All it's going to take one time is some woman to be beaten into a coma by one of these trans women. Then what? Then what? The argument can be made, well, men get put in the hospital and get put in comas too. Yeah, but people not gonna look at it the same as if it happens to women. You know, I keep telling y'all, women are more protected than children. When there's an emergency situation, what do they say? Women and children first. Protect the women and children. It's never the children and women. It's always women and children. Women are more protected than children. So when some woman gets destroyed in one of these combat sports, like bad, where she's, you know, at the brink of expiring from what happened, what are y'all gonna say? Then the legislators are gonna jump on. They're gonna jump all on top of it. They're gonna be all over it. They're gonna try to ban all the sports outright because you can't ban the L Gibbets. They're gonna try to ban this. They're gonna go after the sports altogether. Either ban them or they're gonna put a whole bunch of restrictions in there that's gonna make the sports even more lousy to watch than they currently are. Because I'm gonna tell you, most women's sports are lousy. I like women's volleyball and I like women's tennis and I like women's jujitsu. Women's wrestling, women's amateur wrestling, it's all right, but um, uh, most other women's sports, nobody want to see that shit. Women don't even support that stuff. That's what's going on with the WNBA. Don't nobody want to see no big 6'7" uh stud doing layups. Nobody want to see that. Nobody wants to see that. That's why they can't make any money, because the market dictates. People are going to pay for what they want to see. They don't want to see Brittany Griner dunking bad, doing them old sorry dunks that she be trying to do. They just don't. I don't want to see some big old dude, some big dudette or manlet, doing a bunch of layups and jump shots. You know, that's just me. But I think a lot of people share that sentiment. Nobody wants to see it. They want to see LeBron James. They don't want to see Brittany Griner. It is what it is. I wish them all the best, and for them to make as much money as the market will allow. But the truth is, their sports aren't as exciting. And as I said before, that's why women don't really support those sports. Not even the studs and the L Gibbets. They don't want to watch that stuff, you know? I was on a panel before and we talked about what would make the WNBA better. I was like bathing suits, bikinis. I was like bikinis. And women that people actually want to see, women that are actually beautiful. I don't want to see some chick that look like Two Chains, out there with um shooting jump shots. Nobody wants to see Two Chains. They want to see nice looking women. Even with this Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark looks like uh she looked like she got asthma problems or something, hay fever. she's not a she's not a looker, She don't look like Martina Navratilova, these Russian tennis players, and even when you know uh Serena Williams was young, they all had fans of guys that would look and watch the sports simply because they looked good to those guys. They were attractive in some manner to those guys. Brittany Griner ain't attracted to nobody. She ain't attractive to nobody, male or female. You know, it is what it is, man. You know, yeah, man. So I can't wait till we get a uh, trans man or a trans woman, women's heavyweight boxing uh, top contender or champion. I would love to see those matches. Those matches are gonna be brutal, dog. Oh my god. I've said that on social media before. Those are gonna be some brutal fights. Woo, man, man. There's a social media skit going around where this our women's boxer was she was fighting for the world championship, and at the last minute she found out her opponent was Mike Tyson, who um changed his identity to a woman and was competing. Imagine Mike Tyson as a trans woman boxing. We know what he would do to guys. Imagine what he would do to women. He would hit them and atomize them. They would turn into dust immediately. He would disintegrate them. Pow! They would just turn into glitter. he, he would knock the glitter out. Oh my God. He would turn them into ashes or something, man. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, man. The thing is, there are sports that men and women can compete against each other. A lot of those sports are in the Olympics. Like, there's that one sport where you ride around on like a horse or something and you shoot a rifle. Men and women can participate in that together. I think women, from what I observed in the military and in law enforcement training with women, women tend to be better shooters. They tend to be, for whatever reason, they tend to be better shooters. They don't tend to be as fast on the shot as their male counterparts, but they tend to be better shooters. That's what I've observed. You know, so the whole thing about women snipers and stuff, I honestly I can see it. You know, the issue is that men will shoot without thinking, and men are much quicker on the trigger. You know, another sport that men and women can compete against each other, um, and it'd be pretty competitive. Something crazy like shuffleboard or something like that. There are sports where men and women could actually compete against each other, and it would be competitive, I believe. Uh, Another one where they have that like broom and they roll uh shoot a pot across the ice and you got to sweep the ice to melt it so the pot can go further and faster. I forgot what it's called, but it's like a Canadian sport, and I think they're the only people that win it. Uh, I think that's another one that men and women can compete against each other, and it would be somewhat competitive. Pool. There are a lot of great female pool players. A lot. You gonna go to shuffleboard? Mike Reed said you gonna go to shuffleboard. Hey, yeah, shuffleboard. I don't know if shuffleboard is an Olympic sport, but maybe something like that. Man, the horse being a horse jockey. Hey, I think that would be right up a lot of women's alley, especially smaller women, because they have them little diminutive guys by being jockeys and stuff. Them guys be like 4'9" and 109 pounds. I think there are women that can compete as jockeys right along with the men and be competitive. It's not necessarily an Olympic sport, but they do have world championships and stuff like that. And they got all kinds of crazy ass Olympic sports, man. You know, um, the thing is they gotta do something about this L. Gibbons takeover of the Olympics. But you know, hey, I seen a video one time of a trans woman in a jujitsu tournament with a biological woman, and he kept putting his nuts in her face. He kept putting the whole fruit basket in her face. She was so she had the whole fruit basket in her face, man. Oh my God, it was insane. It was hilarious, man. And I was like, hey, oh well, you know, man. See stuff like that, man. It entertains the mess out of me, man. It is hilarious. Mike Reed says they don't do well in that ice slide with the broom. Yeah, I forgot what they call it, man. It's got like some crazy name that it sounds like some nerdy shit, man. Video games, I think. Well, that's not an Olympic sport, but with the way everything is going, competitive video games might become an Olympic sport. Who knows? But I think men and women can compete. I think they can participate in that and be competitive with each other. Olympic keyboarding. I think women would smoke that. I think women would smoke it. Um, Man, what else? Uh, Synchronized swimming. I think men and women could compete against each other in synchronized swimming. I think women would probably have an advantage because women tend to be better dancers. I think synchronized swimming. Ballroom dancing, definitely. you know, man, I think there's some potential sports that men and women could compete against each other, man. Professional penny pinching. You're from Chicago. They used to pitch pennies like crazy. Pitching quarters, man. Pennies and quarters and stuff. I think that would be a great sport, since they making all this stuff people don't care about Olympic sports. There are a few that they come up with that men and women can compete against each other that nobody would care about. You know, archery is another one. Archery is another one. Come to think of it, archery with both, I would say with both compound bow and long bow. You know, I think men and women can compete against each other in those sports. Kind of like I was talking about with the Olympic shooting. You know, Speaking of shooting, I'm thinking about competing in some three-gun competitions. Mike Reed says no. Mike Reed says no. I don't know what he said no about, but all the stuff I talk about is ridiculous enough to be like no to all of it. um, Getting back to what I was saying, I don't know if you all know what three-gun competitions are, but it's where you start out with a rifle. Um, You fire that at targets while moving until you expend all your rounds. Then you transition to a shotgun. You fire your shotgun slugs until you deplete all your rounds, and then you transition lastly to a hand pistol. And you fire that at your targets until you deplete all your rounds. Um, I am thinking about participating in some of those contests because your boy is a great shooter. I'm a great shooter. I'm a great archer. Um, I am, very accurate and effective with firearms and with compound bows. I don't do crossbows because I feel like crossbows are for the weak. Crossbows are for the weak. I do a compound bow. I got a compound bow right now with a um I believe it's a 70-pound draw. And I actually put a video up of me shooting some targets, and your boy hits bullseye. If I shoot 10 arrows, if I drop one, that's a bad shoot for me. I'm that good. Yeah. Yeah. I'm no joke. With a compound bow, you know. And like I said, I'm a great shot with all other firearms as well. I don't mess around. When I was in the military, out of 18 years or range qualification, I think I didn't shoot expert one time, and I wish I can go back and redo that. But yeah, I am I'm a crack shot, Yeah, I don't mess around. Don't let me get the things after you because you're going to have to pick out a suit and we're going to cancel Christmas for you, you know. But, I'm a nice guy, so I wouldn't dream of doing that to people. But, if when it comes to target shooting, I am very effective, very precise, very good shot. yeah, man. So, but I think women can compete against men in that. Um, you know, and I talked about that already. So, anyway, so I think I've babbled enough. Um, yeah, I want to shut this stream down. But I'll come back tomorrow. And Mike Reed says, nice. When I was talking about the shooting, yeah, man. Yeah, Mike. I like combat stuff, man. I do. I like combat stuff, man. I like shooting and all of that stuff. Yeah, man. But yeah, I'm gonna shut this stream down. I think I've babbled enough. Thank you all for showing up. That showed up. Do me a favor, if you haven't already hit that like button on your way out. I will be back tomorrow night around the same time, 10:15, with another live stream, and I'll find something else to babble about. I might even pull up some videos that we can do our fair use with. I kind of stayed away from the videos for a while because a few of the videos I had strikes on there for whatever reason, and or there was an issue with, like, when I was trying to pull videos off on Twitter. I always have a problem with Twitter's, but Twitter is, or X now, that's what they call it. It's a cesspool. It's a cesspool on X. They be having all kinds of wild stuff on there, man. TikTok too, but I don't like TikTok because I don't like liberal women. What y'all call liberal women? I call them leftist women. I don't like leftist women. I don't like the Marxism. I don't like the istisms. It's colorist. It's featurist. I don't have time for that. I don't really care about pro black babble either. You know, y'all know my position on that. I think we should mix up the gene pool until everybody is beige. You know. I'm thinking beige invasion. But hey, I appreciate you guys being here. This is Mr. Royce Media. Like, share, and subscribe. Get in the comment section. I will see you guys tomorrow night. Y'all take it easy. Peace.